Bone broth time. So welcome to another episode. Today we are going to be making bone broth with chicken. So in the last episode we deboned the chicken. Today we are going to make bone broth.
Okay, so first thing we're gonna do, guys, is like I said before in the last video, I'm gonna ditch the gizzards. And first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna wash the chicken.
We're gonna be using onion, celery. We've got our fresh herbs. I'm gonna use the parsley stems here. This is a great way to use up the parsley stems. There's lots of flavor in there, and you get to utilize the whole thing. Some fresh thyme, bay leaves. I like to have a little bit of dry herbs in there, so I'm gonna use a little bit of oregano and a little bit of basil. And we have black peppercorns. And we're gonna start our onions. So ideally, we wanna have 2 parts onion and 1 part celery, but this isn't an exact science. So these pieces we can throw right into the stock. If this is really dirty, you could remove this part, but it's not too bad. So I'm going to throw that in. Cut the onion in half. Remove this. I like to go a couple layers deep. Again, as we're making stock, we're making bone broth, so this can go right into the pot. We'll do this with the other side as well. I like to go at least 2 layers deep there. That goes in. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do maybe not even quite a 1-inch dice on this. Kind of a smaller dice. Turn it. Doesn't have to be exact. The onion is gonna provide a ton of flavor. Celery. So you want the celery to be about the same size as the onion. So we're gonna go right about there. Leaf, no problem. Throw it all in. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our parsley. And like I mentioned before, this is a great way to use up the stems. Let's give it a rip. Remove the rubber band. And there we go. Got some fresh parsley stems. I'm gonna throw a little bit extra in because the fresh herbs really make it taste nice. I'm gonna throw in our nice sprig of fresh thyme. I'm gonna throw in our bay leaves, our black peppercorns, and a little bit of dried herbs like I mentioned. So I got a little bit of oregano, just a little bit. Basil. Done. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cover everything with nice fresh water. I'm using filtered water here today, just so everything tastes really nice. We're not gonna get any impurities. And all you're gonna do is, so now that it's basically covered, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add 1 extra inch. Okay, so now we have it on the stove, and what we're gonna do is we're going to turn it onto about medium-high. And we're just gonna bring it up to a boil. Once it comes up to a boil, we're gonna turn it down to a very low simmer where it's just simmering, and we're gonna cook it for 2 to 4 hours. So you can see our stock is just coming up to a boil here. Now it's starting to bubble around the edges. And what we're seeing is this part right here. This is what we call in the chef world, we call this impurities. So what we're gonna do is we're going to turn it down a little bit, down to a medium or so right now. And what you do is you just get in there with a spoon and you just spoon any of those impurities out, because those impurities will affect the flavor and the clarity of your stock. So if you see impurities coming up, just grab a spoon and just spoon them out, and then just discard it. So now that our stock has come up to a boil, what we're going to do is we're going to turn it right down to a really, really low, like almost at the lowest setting. Okay, so I feel like my stock is at a little bit too low of a simmer. You can see how it's barely bubbling, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn it up a little notch. Okay, so I turned the stock back up a little bit, guys, and you can see it's bubbling. Pretty good. So it's actually a little bit too high. So I'm gonna turn it back down just a hair. It's gotta be somewhere between this kind of a rapid simmer and then the too low earlier. We'll just find that happy medium. If you do find that the stock is reducing and the water's going down, you can just add a little bit more water in there and just top it up, but that's totally okay. Okay guys, we got this at a nice simmer now. You can see that's a pretty hard simmer, but I'd rather a little bit too high than a little bit too low. So you can see on my dial here, it's almost at low. You can see where the flame's kind of at. I'd rather it be simmering a little bit hard like this and add a little bit of water. That way at least it's extracting a lot of the flavor. Okay, so we are 1 hour and 30 minutes into our 3-hour chicken stock here. So I'm just gonna give you a look. And so what we see here is the vegetables are looking nice and translucent. The herbs are starting to break down, and there's a little bit of a golden color to this. So there we go. So nice and clear, that's what you want. You want a nice clear stock. You might be tempted to pull it off at this point, but for me, it's really just starting to get going. So we've got 90 more minutes left. We're just gonna keep it going at this nice gentle simmer, and then we're gonna strain it all off at the end. Okay guys, so there's our timer. The stock has been going for exactly 3 hours. It's gonna kill the timer, and there we go. Just like I mentioned before, you can see everything is nice and cooked now. We push down on here, you can see that the stock is nice and clear. It's got a little bit of fat on top there. That's lots of flavor. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna transfer it over to here. I have a bowl with some ice. I'm going to put a little bit of water in there. Just that much. Pull that back up. I'm gonna set our bowl right in there, and I'm gonna strain it right into there. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna strain the stock right into that glass bowl that's sitting on some ice, nice and slow. Okay, so there we go. We got the stock, and what I'm doing, why I'm doing with ice is to allow it to cool very quickly. In the kitchen, you always want to cool sauces, soup sauces, and stocks very quickly, and we're just gonna let it sit there for about 45 minutes. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and have a small taste of our stock, see how it is. Let it cool down here for a second, give it a taste. Cool, so it has a nice chicken flavor. The only thing I'm gonna do now to finish it off is add a little bit of that chicken base that you saw earlier. That'll just kick up the chicken flavor. You gotta go light on it or else it can get too salty. Or you can just use a little bit of salt as well and just season it to taste. Other than that, it's 100% done, and you got bone broth in a mug. Super good for you. It's got collagen, lots of good stuff in there. Hey guys, thanks for watching another episode. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to answer them personally, each and every one. And we'll see you guys soon.